Hey guys, Zachary Shaheen here with our first video tutorial for 3D creations for beginners. In this video tutorial, we are going to be making moon pyramids. What are moon pyramids? Well, moon pyramids were objects given to the first Apollo astronauts to land on the moon by the moon men that have been living on the moon for thousands and thousands of years. Now these do look like pretty complicated objects to build, but they are actually very, very easy, which is why I'm choosing them for our first video tutorial. Okay, so this tutorial is going to go over the interface of Blender, and we're also going to go through the fundamentals of computer modeling. Alright, let's get started. So, this is Blender. Now we can see here that we started with a cube object in the middle of the grid. And also one thing that I want to point out in Blender is that we always start in perspective view. As you can see, it says user persp up here in the top left. Now we want to be modeling an ortho, or orthographic view. Now we're going to switch between the two of them by pressing the numpad 5 button. Now there are two key differences between these two views. Perspective gives kind of a more representation of what this object would look like if it really existed. You can see that in perspective we actually have perspective effects. Like right here, you can see that further away from the cube we go, it gets smaller, like we're really looking at it in real life. But if we go into orthographic view, this is a much more literal representation of this object in 3D space, so no matter how far away from the object or where we look at it, the cube maintains its shape. Perspective view is used to render your images and to try and mimic real life, while orthographic view is used for modeling. So we're going to make sure that we model in orthographic view and not perspective view. Okay, let's begin. The first thing that we're going to do is delete this cube because we really don't need it. Go ahead and click X on the keyboard and then click delete. Okay. Now what we want to do is get started on building our moon pyramid. We're actually going to create a plane, which is just a flat square object. So what we want to do is let's go ahead and look at the top view here, or press numpad 7. Now there's two ways to create an object in Blender. We can go over to the left in this create panel, click on plane, and it's been added to our scene. Or a faster way is hold down Shift A, which brings up a menu. We select mesh and plane. There we go. This is going to be the basis of our moon pyramid. But you're probably thinking, why are we making this flat square object when the moon pyramids are, well, pyramids? We're going to actually sculpt these with a method called extruding, which really is the basis for making anything or sculpting anything in 3D space. We're going to go ahead and look at this in two views here. This one is going to stay as a uniform side view, and this one is going to be up here so we can kind of see the progress of what we're making as we go along. Okay, so the next thing I want to go over here is the difference between object mode and edit mode. Object mode gives us the ability to move the object around, scale it up and down, and rotate it. Now edit mode lets you do a similar thing, but with specific points or vertices or faces of the object. Now to go into edit mode, we're going to click the tab button. Now if we go into wireframe mode by pressing the Z key, and we press tab to go into edit mode, you can see here that we have the ability to select only certain vertices on the object. Let's go ahead and press A to select none, and we're going to press B to bring up our box select, and I'm going to select the corner of this object right here. Only this vertice is selected. So now we can go ahead and drag this out and move it around, and we're only manipulating this one point in the object. This is also another tool that we're going to be using when we're creating our 3D objects. Now let's get started with our process called extruding. We're going to go ahead and press A to make sure that we have everything selected. Now we're going to press the E key to begin extruding. When we press E, we can see that we have the ability to kind of pull this object out and move it around anywhere we want. But we don't want to have this freedom of moving it around like this. We want this to stay on a uniformed axis. So the axis we want to be moving it on is going to be the Z axis. So let's go ahead and press Z. And by pressing Z, it's only going to move up and down on the Z axis. Okay, let's go ahead and drag up our moon pyramid to right around here and click. There we go. Now we've created a cube. But how do we make it into a pyramid? Well, there's more than one ways to do this. The first thing we're going to do is scale it down. Now remember earlier, scaling is done by pressing the S key. So if we scale it and move it in, we are creating a point. The only problem is with scaling, we're never going to get an absolute point, no matter how far we zoom in. So we're going to use another method to go ahead and make the point. We're going to go over to Tools on the left, scroll down, click Merge, and merge at center. There we go. That's how we create a point. Alright, now I think this object is a little too tall, so we're going to grab onto this right here, and we're going to move it down, and as you can see, we're still in edit mode, so it's only adjusting this one point and sort of flattening the object for us. Okay, there we go. Now let's go ahead and give it a floor to sit on, so it's not just floating around in space. We're going to press Tab to get out of edit mode, and then we're going to make a new plane. We're going to press Shift A, go to Mesh, Add Plane. Now if we go to Top View by pressing the numpad 7 button, and press S to scale the object, we can see that we've created a plane under our pyramid object. There we go. So this really completes the modeling part of this video tutorial. Let's move on to the actual look of the pyramid. Now as you saw earlier on the moon pyramid, it did have some glowing designs on it. There's two things that we're going to put on this pyramid to get that effect: a material and a texture. So a material does not only define the color of the object, but you can also dictate what happens when light hits it, whether the light reflects on it, or whether it sort of emits light and doesn't have a reflection, whether shadows are cast upon it. It controls all of those properties there. And then textures are what's sort of projected or wrapped onto the object. We'll show you what that means. Let's go ahead and get this to just one view. Okay, let's go ahead and make a new material. The material we're going to make is going to be for the pyramid. Over here on the right, these tabs give you the ability to edit certain properties and objects in Blender. We're going to go ahead and click this right here, which is New Material. Let's click on New Material. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a blue moon pyramid. So what we want to do here is click on Diffuse. Now Diffuse is what the color of the object is going to be. We're going to drag this all the way over here to the blue. Okay. Now remember in the image earlier how the designs were sort of emitting light. What we need to do here is go down to Shading, and then see right here where it says Emit. We're going to go ahead and change this to 3. That way it's going to emit a lot of light. Also, since it's emitting light, we don't want to have any kind of a specular highlight on it, so we're going to go over to Specular, turn the intensity all the way down. Okay, there we go. The next thing that we're going to do is place a texture on this object. So we're going to go over here and go to the Textures panel. We're going to click New. Now you can do a lot with the Textures panel, just like you can do with the Materials panel. Okay, so we've already made the pyramid blue. That's half of what we need to do. Now let's go ahead and add the design with a texture. So we're going to change the type from image or movie to Stucci. Now you see here that it's created kind of a cloudy texture. Now right here, if we click on the Materials tab, this is going to show us what the texture would look like if it was projected onto a ball. We can also change it to a cube if you want to look at it on a cube object. Okay. Next we want to go ahead and change the mapping from UV to generated. Okay, let's go ahead and click on both so we can see the texture and the texture projected on the object. Now we need to change the style of this texture. Right now it's very cloudy, so we're going to change the basis from Blender Original to Crackle. If we scroll up here, we can see that we have that design that we were looking at earlier. But there is one problem. Why is it pink? Well, the reason why is because if we scroll down here to the Influence tab, the color is being added into the texture and the color selected is pink. Let's go ahead and bring this all the way down and make it black. Now something I want to go over very quickly is rendering. Rendering not only shows you what the completed work is going to look like, but rendering is also how you get your works out of Blender so you can save them as image files or movie files. If we want to get a rendered preview, we're going to go down here and change this. Next to where it says Object Mode, we're going to click that. Now this gives us the ability to look at the object in different views. We were already working with wireframe mode earlier, and then we changed it to solid. But if we go up here to rendered, that's going to give us a rendered preview. So when we save these as an image file, this is what it's actually going to look like. There we go, we can see that design and color has been applied to our pyramid. Okay, let's keep going. Now the next thing that I want to do is give the floor some kind of a material. Let's go ahead and create a new material. We're going to name this material Floor. Now for the diffuse color, the only thing we're going to do is make it a little bit darker. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and look at this in rendered preview again by clicking rendered. Now one thing that you probably notice is that these are not actually glowing at all. Let's go ahead and change that. In order to make an object actually emit light and glow, we have to change a property in the world settings. So we're going to click on this little planet Earth, go down here, we're going to click on indirect lighting, change it from ray trace to approximate, and type in 2 for the amount of passes. This is going to allow objects to cast light onto other objects. In order to get the full effect of the object glowing, we're going to want to make the light a lot less intense. This is the light that we have on our scene. Now, lighting is a very in-depth part of computer modeling, and I could spend a very, very long time going over it, but we're just going to make some minor adjustments just to get the effect we want. The first thing we're going to do is move the light away from the pyramid, so it'll have less of an effect. We're also going to change the actual intensity of the light. Right here where it says energy, it's set to 1. We want to go ahead and bring that down a lot. We're going to go to just 0.1. Now this light's not going to be casting much light at all on this object, so we can really see it glowing. Let's go ahead and change it to rendered. There we go. Now we can see the object is emitting some blue light onto the floor. Right here. Now there is another adjustment that I want to make. What's going to give your creations a lot more pop and make them look really cool is reflections. So I want to have the floor of this reflecting the pyramid. Now that's very easy to do. Back in the Materials tab, for the floor material, we're going to scroll down here and we're going to click on Mirror. Let's go ahead and change the reflectivity value to 0.1. Now let's take a look at that. There we go. Now you can see that the floor is not only receiving light from the object, but it's also reflecting the object. Very good. Now what can we add to make this look a bit more impressive? Well, let's go ahead and add some more moon pyramids. And let's make them different colors. So what we want to do here is we want to duplicate this object rather than making another one, kind of like copy-paste. If we go over to the Tools panel here, have the object selected, let's go ahead and click on Duplicate. Now you can see that we have another object, and it's kind of stuck to the mouse. The way that we can fix that is just by right-clicking. Now let's go ahead and drag the second object out here. There we go. Now we've created another moon pyramid. Let's go back to solid mode. Now we want to change the color of this so it's something other than blue. Okay. Let's go back to the Materials panel here. Now what we want to do is have the object selected, and we want to create a new material slot. Now we want to go ahead and select the original material that we were using so we can edit it. One important thing here is we definitely want to press this plus button, Add New Material. If we don't press that button, any changes we make for this separate material are going to affect the first material as well. We want it to be separate, so that's why we have to click that little plus button. Now let's name it a new material. Let's make this one green. In fact, let's go back, just to stay organized, and change this one to blue. Always stay organized. Okay, let's go ahead and click on the green material, click Diffuse, and change the color to green. Now this is displaying all the materials that are going to be applied to this object. The one on top is going to be the more dominant one. What we need to do here for the green object is actually remove the blue material, so let's click on it and click the minus sign. That means that only this green material is going to be applied to this object, and if we click here, only the blue material is going to be applied to this object. Now let's go ahead and make another one. Duplicate, right click, drag it out. Okay, now let's make this one pink. So, same thing here, add a new material slot, select the blue material, add the new material, change the name to pink, go to the diffuse color, change it to pink, remove the blue material from it, and there we go. Okay, let's go ahead and make one more, and let's make it orange. Duplicate, right click, click and drag, new material slot, select the blue material, add new material, name it orange, diffuse color, change it to orange, remove the blue material, and there we go. Okay, now to see these objects completed, we were going back and forth between rendered view, but I want to show you the other way to render, which is going to be rendering through the camera. Now not only is this going to give you a rendered view, but this is actually how you can save your photographs from Blender so you can upload them to Facebook and impress your friends. So what we want to do here is go to the camera view. Now we can go ahead and click View, Camera, or to make it faster we can just press the 0 key on the numpad. There we go. Now we can see all of the objects in the frame. Now to render this image, we have to go back over here to these menus, click on the Render tab, which is the little camera. Let's go ahead and click on Render. Now depending on what's in your image, this can take a while to render, so patience is very important. Okay, this is looking very, very good. Now two things I do want to change. See this background here? See how it's gray? We can change that and make it a little bit more interesting. Let's go ahead and make it black. And also, let's bring the light down a little bit more so we can see more of the light being emitted from the moon pyramids. Okay, now as far as changing the light, we're going to go ahead and click on the light over here, edit the light. We're going to go ahead and change that from 0.1 to 0.06, bring it down a little bit. Also, let's bring up the emit values on these so they give off even more light. Right now it's set to 4, let's change it to 6 on each one of them. So this one, and this one. Okay, let's go ahead and render the image. Very, very cool. I think we're done here. So, now how do we save this image so we can upload it to Facebook or email to our friends? Well, let me show you. When we're looking at this object in the render view, what we can do is click on Image and then click Save As Image. Now once we've saved that image, now we can go ahead and look at it and upload it. Now if you do want to get another image from a different angle, we'll have to move where the camera is. Okay, so let's press Escape to return. Now we're going to bring up these two views again. So this view is going to be the camera view, but with this view we can go ahead and move the camera around so we can change what we're looking at. Now let's go ahead and push the camera down, looking up at the pyramids. Now let's click this and push the camera down to the bottom of the floor. Let's move it in a little bit. Now we want to make it face the right direction. We're going to need to change the rotation of the camera. So over here in these panels, we want to click on this little box, which is going to be the object editor. Okay, now we can move the rotation around and find the axis that we want. Looks like the x-axis is how we look up and down. So let's be looking up here. And then the z-axis is going to pan side to side. Let's go ahead and point it at the pyramids. Now we're going to want to move further out so we can see more of the pyramids. Let's go ahead and move this back. Click and move back. There we go. Now we can see all of the pyramids here in the frame. Let's go ahead and render again with the F12 button. Alright, very good. Now let's go ahead and save this image again by clicking Save as Image, or we can just go ahead and press F3 on the keyboard. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and press Escape. Now feel free to move this camera around and get as many pictures as you want. Now this is going to conclude it for this video tutorial of 3D creations for beginners. If you would like to continue learning from these tutorial videos, continue to browse this channel. Also, follow me on Twitter at 3D4Beginners. Join us next time where I'm going to show you guys how to make a lava lamp. Thank you very much for watching.